It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, welcome everyone to the Hazleton Area School District Report, giving you a report of what's happening in the district. Remember, it's your tax dollars that are funding the district, and hopefully we're going to get the best for our money. Today, I know a number of you have been asking me questions and sending emails and have some concerns about the district. So I figured I'd have a one-on-one with our Superintendent, Brian Uplinger, to bring us up to date as to what's happening. Very happy to say that so far everything is doing very well in our district, considering all of the obstacles that they face. Well, Mr. Brian Uplinger, or Doctor, or Your Highness, or whatever you'd like to be called. I know in school you call me Your Highness, etc. All kidding aside, how you been, Brian? All right?
Good, very well. Thank you.
Despite the cold weather and everything else going on.
Correct. Yeah, it's terrible.
School district in good shape?
It's in fantastic shape. Yeah, we're doing a lot of great things.
I want to cover a couple areas here. Now, I see in the standard speaker you're streamlining your registration. Okay, what does that mean?
So basically, if parents have a difficult time registering online, so we moved everything to online registration during COVID. It worked out really well for us. No one had to stand out in the cold. No one had to be left outside or anything of that nature. They could register, get everything updated on our Skyward site through the link that was provided. And now what this will do, if parents are having difficulty, they can come to the mall, come to the site at, we call it the Welcome Center, and have one-on-one assistance in getting their child registered. So we'd like them to still go to the site, start the preliminary registration, and then if they're having difficulty getting anything uploaded, or they have questions about the registration, then they can come out here to the mall and get those questions answered, get their items uploaded, birth certificates or proofs of residency, things of that nature. So it's streamlined.
What are the requirements when someone's registering?
So they obviously have to be a resident of the district. We need one proof. We used to take 3.
Okay, what is that proof that you need?
So that proof could be a bank statement, could be a bill, could be a lease, mortgage statement, driver's license, anything of that nature.
Does the state tell you what is basically required?
They do. Yeah, they do. They
and
have
what
a
you're
list.
telling me is what they ask.
Correct. Yep. Everything that is required or is accepted, I should say, is listed on our website.
Okay, so here we addressed this once before, but let's get a little bit more involved. When you're talking about a new registration, all right, it's if they're coming in before the school starts, then you got a routine going. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So let's talk about the fact you have to register everybody. I mean, you can't turn anyone away. All right.
Correct.
Even you don't know whether they're legal or illegal.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that itself is a question,
right.
All right? Because my kids are now going to the high school or to school, all right? And I want them to get a education. I don't care whether they're black, pink, yellow, or whatever.
Doesn't matter to us.
So now what happens is when you're registering, all right, okay, how do you determine what classes they go into? Because there's different advances, there's, special ed. That's number one. How do you determine that?
So we're hoping they come to us with previous schooling. So we look at their transcript that comes from their whatever other school that they were enrolled in. Once we get that, we have our folks, our guidance counselors, take a look at those transcripts, and then they'll say, okay, this child might be a 9th grade student by age, but they have credits for being in 10th grade, so they may be promoted to 10th grade. It just depends on, number one, their age, and number two, the transcripts that we receive from their previous school.
Well, what if they were, can they tell you what grade they were in, or if they even went to school where they're coming from?
Sure, absolutely, and that helps. All the information that they can provide us certainly helps the placement. There are some times that we do get students that have never been in a public school before or in school at all. And then we look at placing them age appropriate. that child might have the age of being a typical ninth grader, so they may be going in a ninth grade class. But
Well, how do you do that if they have no previous, grade school?
it's difficult. It's very difficult. But we try to place them in basic classes just to see how they perform. And then if there's a need, then we'll bump them up. If they're doing really well, we'll bump them up to the next level, an honors class or an AP class or what have you, whatever is determined by the way that they work in the classroom.
Well, isn't there such a thing as categories?
Not any longer. Unless we're talking special education now.
Yeah. Well, that's. But I'm just saying, there's sometimes a person doesn't have the ability.
Right.
Okay, so now you're putting him. You're feeling you're putting him into a class.
Right.
Meanwhile, you have other students there who are, in the system.
Correct.
Even all kinds, Hispanic, Black, whatever. So this person is now lost.
Right. And that does happen. That does happen. So what we will remediate that student. They may not.
So
not
the teacher can identify that.
Correct. Yes. They'll differentiate the instruction in the classroom. And then if that student needs some remediation, they may need some tutoring, or they may not need any special education services, but they may just be a little bit behind. That teacher will be able to identify that child, and then we can work with them. The teacher can work with them, the principal, to get them the best placement. If it's still in the same classroom, they may have to do just a little bit of different assessments with them, or different homework, things like that, just to get them up to par where they need to be with the rest of the class.
When you're bringing students in, particularly when the school year has started, they're in chapter 10, who's on chapter 6, who's,
Right.
The teachers already have their works, their outlines, daily plans there, and now you bring a new person in. It's very difficult for that teacher, because now that teacher has to either stop, slow down, pay attention to that person, and hopefully now, and that's where I don't think there's a balance there, Brian, where, I'm saying, well, if you come in, you should go into if you have no previous education or a language concern. Well, we have classes and we have concerns for that.
Right.
You may have a person who is 15 with a person who's 9, a person who's 12. I don't know. I mean, I know we don't have a magic wand here, but yet and this is the questions I get, Sam. My kids now all of a sudden they can't get their classes. They're paying more attention to this, and and all these questions are there. How do you handle that, Brian?
So
I know it's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not easy. So again, going back just to the age-appropriate placement, we would never place a 15-year-old with a 9-year-old.
Okay.
So we look at where they would fall if they have never had any formal education prior. We'll definitely place them age-appropriate, and then work with that child to see, can they advance? Can they go into different classes? But yes, it's very difficult for the teacher to try to catch that student up if they're coming in the middle of the school year, or even into the end of the first semester or quarter. I mean, those are difficult situations we run into a lot. And it doesn't matter how many come to us, where they come from. We're definitely going to educate them to the best of our ability and to the best of their ability, and they're going to come out with a great education. One thing that we've looked at doing, or have looked at, is all the students that have stayed with us for at least 5 years have acquired language skills superior to anyone else. They've advanced themselves. They've gone to college, things of that nature. Those 5 years are really solid years that are really important for that child to gain. But if they're leaving and coming back and going, jumping schools, things of that nature, those are difficult for that child to even continue in education, because they're lost, if you will.
You see, and that's the rewarding part. The rewarding part is when you see them, and and the teachers are absolutely fantastic.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to
Yes.
tell you, we have the greatest teachers and aides in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes, we do.
And I'm not just saying that.
No.
I'm a former. I wouldn't want to be a teacher today. What they have to encounter. I
Right.
mean, and I say that respectfully. But in terms of when you're looking at what you've achieved in these students, and that's great, it's when things happen, that are not fair. And when HIP came in town, and et cetera, a great opportunity for the people to learn the language, to learn to work with people. Okay, when you start turning things into a political situation, then you have concerns. Okay, and you have illegals, you don't have legals, and then you have all these things that you have to be concerned about, particularly when they're coming into a school system and there's education involved.
Correct.
Okay,
right.
So is there a monitoring program that you have? Like you said, you cannot say whether they're legal. You have to accept them anyway.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
That's right.
So we don't know how many people, because
Right.
what happens is they may stay and then all of a sudden they leave.
Correct.
And when they leave, then now there's another concern for that teacher. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's really, if you have it down to a science, great. Now the other question is, well, you need help. Okay, you need help with that. And so if you are told to accept anyone, Italians, Slovaks, whatever, Hispanics, you need additional teachers to help you with that, or a guidance counselor. And that's where I think the state and the federal government come in, because they're mandating you to do those things, okay? So where do we stand in the state of Pennsylvania? Because the last time we talked a couple times about getting our fair share. We're not saying we want more. We're saying that we're our fair share and what we're doing. Where do we stand there?
Right. So you're very true. We've worked very closely with Senator Argel and Representative Wattrow in that fight in getting our fair share. A real quick example is there's 500 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. So we are ranked maybe 489, 490 in expenditure on students. We stretch a dollar like you've never seen a dollar stretched before. That doesn't mean that these children aren't getting a great education,
yes,
and which we are. We're providing a fantastic education for them. With $9 million in scholarships were awarded last year alone. So there's definitely those opportunities there for the children. They just want to want them more. But yes, definitely if we were able to get our fair share, we'd be able to add more staff. We'd be able to add more programs. Not that we've ever taken anything away, and I don't believe in that. That's something that I'm very proud of in my administration, is not taking anything away from the kids. We've always added to it. So having that fair share is really important for us to be able to provide additional services for all the students that are coming to us.
Well, it's a challenge, okay, and addressing those challenges is it's how do you do it the fair way? And I think that and you got two great people. I mean, Argel and Wattrow.
Right.
I mean, you can find finer people who will go and bat and do what is right. And hopefully they will get you the funding that's needed. Okay,
Right.
okay. And does the federal government come in? Does Muser and Bresnahan have any involvement in?
They will. They have in the past. Now that Bresnahan's new, so we'll definitely invite him in. Have him take a tour, just tell him what we're running against, and then, see how he can certainly assist us.
We have two aggressive congressmen,
Right.
okay, and I think they do well. And again, kudos to those teachers, okay, and to the aides, et cetera. I mean, it's just amazing. Folks, I'm talking to Brian Uplinger, our superintendent of the Hazleton Area School District. This is the monthly report. I'm going to address some of the concerns, some of the questions that you've been asking and sending to me. My email is sam@ssptv.com. Just send your questions and we'll try to get to them. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. What about the hiring policy in the district? And what about these tests? Do they mean anything? How valuable are they? We'll discuss that when we come back after break. Well, welcome back to the Hazleton Area School District Report. I'm Sam Lesante, and remember you can watch us 24/7 on ssptv.com. A lot of you have been going to our website. We have additional programs. You remember we have about 21 original neighborhood programs on our system. And also our YouTube channel. We do a report every month. This is one of many reports. We have the Mayor's Report, Mayor Cassette's Mayor's Report monthly. We have the Luzerne County Community College Report. Of course, we have the Hazleton Area School District Report, and we have the Visit Luzerne Report, and we have the Luzerne County Report, or MILDA. We're also starting the Schuylkill Report probably in February and March. My guest is no stranger to the show, Dr. Brian Uplinger. The people are asking about your hiring policy, okay? Tell me how that works.
So we have different openings that are posted to our website. Anyone can go on and subscribe to that actual page, and then if there's an update to that page, they'll get an email alert that says, hey, this page has been updated. Everything that we have listed available in the district is there. Occasionally we'll post it on our Facebook page just to get a little bit more reach. And then obviously they go through the process of applying for the position and submitting all of the paperwork that's necessary for those positions.
So do you look for, in qualifying for a position, if a person is from the district and a person's not from the district, and they have the same qualifications, how would you look at that before you present it to the board? Okay.
I look at the person that is the most qualified, and if they're the same, then we look at how they fared in the interview process by sitting and talking to us as
who's in the interview process?
Usually Dr. Pat Patty, Mr. Dan Rogers, myself occasionally. I don't sit in there unless we need to. If it's a first interview, and then I don't necessarily sit in the interviews. If it's a second or a third, then I will definitely sit in on them. But it's usually Dr. Patty, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Jeff Weed for special education, or Mr. Bob Mahalik. And then we bring in our department chairs if it's a math position or a science position or what have you there. We'll bring in those individuals. A guidance position, we'll bring in the department chairs for those various departments so they can put their two cents into on the possible candidate.
So throughout the years, in any school district, even when I was the chairman of the board of the college, you have the people you have people that are very qualified. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, in the Hazleton Area School District, we've had some really qualified people for the position. But school board's nephew, school board's cousin, school board's uncle, school board's whatever, well, it's no fault of them that person happens to be qualified and related to them. And I think that's where people, he got hired because his uncle's on the school board, or her aunt's on the school board, etc. Not realizing that person, don't hold it against her because her relative's on the school board, okay?
Right.
And I think that's always, that's why they got the job situation. How do you react to that, Brian?
I appreciate you saying that, because that doesn't happen. The board obviously takes our recommendation, and there's 9 people that make the final decision. We bring the recommendation to them, but we bring them the most qualified candidate. And if there isn't a qualified candidate within the pool, we'll repost and look for other individuals that may want the position, or may apply for the position. But those instances don't happen. They're where the board says, hey, we got to do this one. It's okay. They're related. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're related or not. We look for the best qualified person for that position.
Yeah. And I think that's especially if you did not get the job.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Then it's well they hire that person because of it's a natural thing. There's different ways of hiring. But I'm a firm believer that when if you're qualified and you meet all the criteria and you live in the district, okay, there's no need to bring a person in from Tennessee, or to Chicago, Philadelphia, because we have great talent here. We have and I'm always a firm believer also, even when I sat as a chairman, is to promote within. Okay, do you feel the same way?
I do. Yeah, there's certain positions that you definitely want to take the individual from within and promote him or her to whatever the next level is. Some great examples are principals. They already know the building, they know the district, they know the students, they know the procedures and the policies and things like that, that it makes it a natural progression from teaching to a principalship. Obviously, I haven't been here my entire life.
You're fired.
But
sorry, you're gone.
In my opinion, and certainly not against anyone else that applied for the position, I guess they chose the most qualified, or
well,
they chose.
And not because it's you, but you've been doing seriously a great job. I mean, you got the personality to have people working, and I'm sure sometimes people don't like some of the decisions because it's one of the.
Don't.
All right, let's talk about tests, which you drive me crazy. You got the PSSA, then you have the Keystone. Okay, now listen, when I was in King's College, I did not have to take comprehensive because thank God I was pretty good. Okay. But I remember one day I wasn't feeling good, and I had to take a test, okay? And Johnny Morado and I had the piano and organ store, Morado Lesante, and we had a meeting, and poor Johnny was doing whatever we could, and I was going to college full-time. Long story short, I wasn't feeling good. Took the test, but I wasn't up to it. Well, I didn't do too well on the test. All of a sudden, they put me in a category. I said, wait a second. I don't have to take my comprehensive. I'm on the dean's list. I'm doing pretty darn good. Not because this lousy test, you're going to tell me I don't qualify. Now, tell me about those.
Sure. Not everyone can take a standardized test. You may have a child that is a gifted student. They may not do well on that standardized test because their thinking isn't standardized. So one thing that everyone has to remember is that these assessments don't predict how that child's going to perform after they graduate or how they're going to perform in college. It's a way for the state, it's a way for the federal government to look at how the district is performing, how the students are performing in the district. But again, going back to what I had said earlier, not everybody does well on a standardized test or that type of assessment. We as teachers, as educators, and you know this, you don't educate your child only one time in a school year.
Exactly.
You do it multiple times in a day.
That overall performance.
It's not a fair test to begin with. Yeah. We have a number of Hispanic children that are in the district. Yeah. The assessments are given in English. It's not fair. It's not a fair assessment. And my staff across the district know how I feel about these assessments, and I'm obviously not a fan of them because that's not how we teach.
Well, I think you should go on overall performance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do know that, for example, when I was doing some work at King's College, they, some students were doing very well, but when it came to a test, they did, but however, their overall performance was great, okay?
Right.
And I think that's one of the things where the teachers are looking at.
Right.
At times. What do you think, we got a minute left, what do you think the public should know about the district? I know the Laurel Mall, you're doing well up here, right?
We're doing really, really well. We opened our third spot February 1st. Hopefully February 1st, we'll have the store open, the Cougar Spirit store, where families can come in, whomever would like to purchase any of the merchandise for the district. That'll be available. We're adding programs. Our JROTC program is doing really well. We have 120 students in there. We're hoping to get it to 220 next year.
That was a good show we did.
Very good show. Yeah. Very good show. The students are so engaging, and they're phenomenal in what they do. So we have a lot of good things going on, and I have a couple things up my sleeve yet before I retire.
I'm shocked. What, you got how many more years yet?
5, 6,
5,
7.
6.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. There's a lot of things you're going to accomplish.
A few more things.
Well, listen, you have a great staff, and next month maybe we could talk about the Career Center.
Sure.
Some other things that are happening. I know there's great things that you're negotiating with different colleges, and I think that's great, okay? Remember, friends, sam@ssptv.com. You have any questions, any comments, let me know, and you can watch us 24/7 on SSP TV. or our YouTube channel if you don't have cable. You should have cable, but if you don't, you have it there. And thank you for making the Sam Lesante Show the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. I really appreciate it. See you next time.